resonate within your physical life, whether it's on your job, and I have that, whether it's some kind of food you want, some kind of shoes you want, maybe you need a new boyfriend or girlfriend, in the right way. I ain't saying cutting up, messing around, but waiting on the Lord is what we, entitled it. We always waiting on something. You're waiting at the red light. You're waiting on the check to come through. You're waiting on somebody to pay you the money they owe you. You're waiting on the AC man to show up to fix the air conditioning. So you always waiting on something. So I said, well, we'll talk about waiting on God. You said, well, man, God, he should be quicker than everything. But, think about it. He ain't ever going to do nothing that's contrary to what the Word says. He ain't ever going to get outside of his character. Good morning, Boogie. So, if you would, flip over to Psalm 27. I'm going to read it starting at 14. Psalm 27, verse 14. Some people, they can't wait on the Lord. Especially a vengeful person. A vengeful person, they'll take it in their own hands, but sometimes that don't end the best way. And you'll say, man, I should have waited on God to handle it, or move in such a way, because our vision's so limited. You might see a couple days ahead, you might see a week, you might even make some things come true. You say, well, I told you it was going to happen, and it did. But, upon that, you don't know what's going to happen. So, yeah. Psalm 27, 14, here we go. It says, wait on the Lord. And this is New King James, so it might read a little different in King James. Wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and he shall strengthen your heart. I say on the Lord. Make sure I'm on the right verse. Because last week I got y'all tripped up between Psalms and Isaiah. So, and he talks about waiting, and throughout the, we're going to do a little bit of flipping around, but not too much. Like I say, we're not going to keep it too long. If you will, flip to Psalm 25:3. And for me, it's just one page over. Maybe on the same page for you. Psalm 25:3 reads like this. It says, indeed, it means sure enough, or absolutely, it says, let no one who waits on you be ashamed. Talking about on the Lord. It says, let those be ashamed who deal treacherously without cause. In other words, he's sitting there saying, when you're doing people no harm, you're doing people harm for no good. But he's saying, wait. Like I said, that goes back to that vengefulness. You need to wait on God. You need to see how God's going to handle it. It's so tempting to want to handle things yourself, but that ain't what you do. Flip to Psalm 37, verse 34, if you will. The good thing is all these references I'm giving you are really close together, so you ain't got to do a whole lot of jumping right now. 37 and 34. Psalm 37, 34. And these are all Psalms of David, by the way. So if you know about the character of David, you know how David's feeling. You know what David, when he says something, you're like, oh, that makes sense. 37, 34. It says, wait. Again, here it is. Wait on the Lord. And, so it's conclusive. It's both. So when you wait, it says also keep his way. That means keep his commandments, keep his, his righteousness. It says, and he shall exalt you. It says, to inherit the land. When the wicked are cut off, you shall see it. And then he goes on further talking about the wicked. But the point is right there, he's saying you need to wait on God. You need to wait on God. You need to wait on God. Psalm 41, if you will. 2 pages over. You say 3 chapters over. In Psalm 41, it says right there, again, here's David. It's talking about faith, persevering in trials and temptations and struggles, and hardships of life. It says, I waited what? Patiently. Patiently. Man, that's a hard word to follow for the Lord. And he did what? He inclined to me. In other words, he kind of turned his ear to me. He heard my cry. He heard my message. He heard what I had to say. I know I talked to God before, and I felt like I wasn't heard. You ever talk to somebody, you know, they say this, oh, cool. Oh, that's crazy. Oh, wow. Right? 40 and 1. 40 verse 1. Psalm 40, yeah, Psalm 41. So he's sitting there saying, look, I reached out to God, and he didn't leave me hanging. I reached out to him, and he heard what I had to say. Well, he said he heard my cry. He also brought me up out of a horrible pit, verse 2. He says, out of a miry clay, and set my feet upon a rock and established my steps. Now, I don't know if you remember, I think we talked about it, it's been a minute, but Jeremiah got thrown into a pit. Jeremiah was down in a hole. They call it a cistern back, then. Basically, it was like a well with rocks. And all he was doing was saying, look, it's coming. These people from the north side, they're coming to do some damage. Babylonia, they're coming. The kingdom of the north. Everybody knew about that. They was coming to attack Judah. And he kept preaching it and preaching it and preaching it. And guess what? They got tired of hearing it. And when they threw him in the well, and when they threw him in the well, he was like, man, I'm doing the right thing. It sucks when you do the right thing and you still get persecuted. You're like, but I'm doing what you said, God. I ain't seeing no change. Wait on the Lord. He said, man, I'm waiting. You know how long you waited, y'all? It was 40 years as an exile. We can't even wait 4 months. I'm guilty. After about 4 months, I'm like, man, it ain't shaking. Something's gonna have to shake. Something's gonna have to change. You talking about 40 years? That's half of my life. And that's why the Bible says this. To one day to the Lord is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is like one day. See, so the thing is, our thought on time ain't the same as the Lord's. So when things aren't happening for us in life the way we think they ought to, I ain't saying you're gonna wait 1,000 years. First off, you can live that long. But what I'm saying is this: it may not be your time to bloom, to prosper. God might be setting some things up for you to put you in the right place. He might be moving someone else that you don't know. But that's why you need to have patience. So David shows true faith by trusting in the Lord and pouring his heart out to God with expectations. He's expecting. He's expecting that God to do something for him. So you say, well, how can we wait on the Lord? Well, the first thing you can do is by trusting him. Spank, if I come to you and I ask you something, I'm obviously trusting him enough to ask him, right? I'm trusting that he's going to tell me. I'm not saying he's going to agree with me, or Philip, or Debbie, or Christine, Kim. Just think about that. David trusted the Lord enough to go to him and pour out his heart. And not only did he pour it, he said, man, I'm expecting it. I can bank on this. Because why? Because I know what you've done for me. I know what you will do, and I know what you will continue to do. That's God's character. He'll never leave you nor forsake you, right? So the timing's always the hardest thing. Man, I get mad at the red light. Man, why that light turn green for this? Man, them folks said, that's just how I am. That's just raw. That's just real. That's just who I am. I ain't saying it's right all the time. But I'm saying when you wait on God, man, it's hard. But if David can do it, and David wasn't perfect, y'all, we all know that. David made some mistakes. He was greedy in a few different ways. Moving on, it says, and point number 2, it says we wait on the Lord by seeking him. In Psalm 27:4, you ain't got to flip there. I'll flip there for you and I'll read it. But if you want to, go right ahead. 27:4 reads like this. It says, one thing I have desired of the Lord. It says, one thing that I will seek of all things. I thought about this when I was writing this message last night. I said, I want to ask the congregation. I said, hey, Sharon, what's one thing that you desire of the Lord? I need some change. I need change in 2 ways. I need to change from this to that, and I need this change. Right? Kim?
Peace.
Peace. Hit it on the head. I love peace. I love peace. We all got something, like Charlie says. We all need it for one thing or another. We all need it for something. I just need to cool these days off. It's hot. It's too hot out there. But my point is this. David sat there and said, one thing that I desire, here it is, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life. He didn't say just on Sunday. All the days of my life. It says to behold the beauty of the Lord and to inquire his temple. You ain't got to be in church to inquire the Lord. You can pray at your house, you can pray in your car. You can have peace, because you got to take peace where you go. I ain't say a side piece. Don't get it. No, you got to take peace in your heart. Not your protection, your Smith & Wesson. No, you need to take peace in your heart. You need to know that God, David, he said, man, of all things, this is what I want. And when you do that, you know what? It brings safety. It brings security in your life. It brings peace in your life. And it's hard. Just because you read the scripture and say, well, I'm supposed to feel good today. No, it's going to be hard. But you got to see the provision. You got to see the long game. Just know, and if all of us know this word. We know how long things take to turn, for David, for Jeremiah, for Peter. That's the thing. You got to know when to go and when not to go. When to say yes and when to say no. Be safe in serving the Lord, because he knew the Lord. What I look like going to somebody asking them something that I don't know what they got. I'm not going to come. It don't make sense. Am I going to go to Tinseltown to go do a carpentry class? I mean, I'm just making it simple. 2 plus 2 dollar. I call it dollar menu. Like simple. You ain't going to go somewhere that don't make sense. You're going to go to somebody you trust that makes sense. You know what they can do for you. You know what they bring to the table. David goes to the Lord because he knows the Lord. And not only knows the Lord, but he knows what the Lord can do for him. And that's not a selfishness. That's just saying, hey, Lord, you are who you say you are. Grace, mercy, truth, everlasting love. He knows that he's going to be there for him. And, he sits there and talks about Psalm 27:40. He also says, because I'm starting to speed up a little bit for the sake of time, but singing unto the Lord, praising God. You got to sing out loud, but when you do sing out, I used to wonder this. How come we close our eyes when we pray? Why can't I pray like this? I'll tell you why. Here's one aspect, and I ain't saying this is always right. But when you close your eyes, guess what? Everybody close your eyes right now. For real. What do y'all see? Nothing. Guess what? When all this out here does this, all you got is this. That's it. You can't, there's nothing in this world that matters anymore. You do this, it takes your mind off the world. It takes your mind off of what you see, what other people think. You can focus and give undivided attention. When you lay down at night, that's when you can get that peace. You can get that comfort. You can get that rest. You can have that 1-800 connection to God, that main line. So prayer. Number 3, that's prayer. How can you wait on the Lord? By praying, like David did in Psalm 27. Did I write 1? No, I wrote 27:11. I'll just read it real quick. In 27:11, he says, teach me your ways. And not only teach me, but lead me to a smooth path because of my enemies. Do not deliver me to the evil of my adversaries, for false witnesses have come to rise against me, people telling stories. He said, I would have lost heart unless I had believed that I would see the goodness of the Lord. I would have lost, but I can't lose. Why? Because I know who's backing me up. I know the Lord's on my side. And he said, what? I prepared a table amongst my enemies. I want y'all to eat. Not only that, I want y'all to watch me. David's putting his trust in the Lord 100x times 100x. I mean, it's just on and on and on. So you have to be completely on board with this Christian thing, this Christian life. Is it hard? Yup. Are you going to stumble? Yup. You going to get rocks thrown at you? Yup. You going to get people talking about you? Yup. But that's building character over time. You build character. And some people might even call you calloused. They might be like, oh, you kind of hard, cold-hearted. No. I ain't saying being callous. I'm just saying you got to know when to discern, when to say, hey, I'm doing this for God. I'm doing that for God. We seek the Lord, but why? Because we know who He is. We know His power. We know His righteousness. And those who don't know, they lose hope. They just straight up, they lose hope. They don't know. They like, man, I feel hopeless. You ever heard that? I feel hopeless. And that's hard. I've talked to those people. I've been that person. It's hard to feel hope when you feel like there's nothing in this world that matters. You know, some people say it like this, I ain't got no reason. I feel like I ain't got no reason. I'm just here. I'm just space. I'm just sucking air. So that's hard when you're in that position, but you got to know that you ain't the only one that's been there. Everybody's been there in their life. Everybody. I don't care who you are. I don't care if they're small, big, black, green, white, orange, or I don't care. The word says you're going to come across hard times. Whether it be friends, people talking about, I can go on and on. Y'all get the point. But remember this, in 1 John 5:4, it says the confidence we have towards him that we can do what? We can ask. Here it is, y'all. Here's the golden nugget. According to whose will? Whose will? God's will. So in other words, I'm asking for something that I want, and it ain't his will, he ain't going to give it to you, y'all. I'm just telling you, if he don't see fit, God, it's out of his character. If I go to Spank and ask Spank something about boxing or basketball or something, guess what? I know I'm going to get a good answer. You know how I know? Because I done seen it with my own eyes. Without asking. I done seen what he can do. It's going to come up top. It's going to go over there. And I'm like, okay, let's see. Sure enough. There it is. I'm like, so I said, okay, he got one. Let's see it again. He said, watch now. He's doing his thing. It's going, now watch this. And I'm like, yeah. I said, this cat been watching ball for a minute. So I started talking to him. Am I lying, Spank? He right on it. Christine with nursing. It's just some of the things you say. It's like, man, well, I know they know what they're talking about. So, God ain't gonna bless you with something that's not according to his character. If it's not in his will. Where's that? I'm about to wrap it up here soon. It says we know who he, 1 John 5:4, and he hears us, basically. When we ask according to his will, and he hears us. So that's what I was talking about earlier, when he hears you. He can hear you just fine. But just because he ain't answering your prayers, you see people say this, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you see me now? You know what I'm saying? You hear me, but you don't feel me, as some people say. It's going in one ear. I know you hear me, but you ain't feeling what I'm saying. It's not resonating with you. So there's a disconnect. With God, you ain't got to worry about that. But one thing you do got to worry about is make sure what you're asking for is right. Because I'm going to tell you like this. I ain't going to lie, I asked for a better job and more money. You know what God did? Man, he kicked me away from my little part-time job and gave me a lot of money. He gave me a lot of responsibility too. And I mean a lot. When I would say I was running ragged, y'all, man, not to make it about money, but the first time I ever saw $100,000, woo! I felt good. Because I come from getting 50 cents, 2 quarters for picking up pecans to the pecan man to the Chevron, getting not a PB, I almost said PB&J, to get the Baby Ruth. Baby Ruth. That was my little route. I picked all the pecans from that tree. With no more pecans. So, waiting on the Lord, what does it do for us? I done told you all that. Here we go. It renews our strength. I was thinking this morning when I got up, I said, man, today's a new day. I done heard that before, but I reassured myself, I'm like, man, this life is short. You better make it count. I need to go show some love to some people, respect them, you know. Bless people if you can. Brag on them a little bit. People appreciate that. But be real. Don't tell them they look one way. No. You know, just be real with them. Don't lie. I'm going to flip to Psalm 40 and 3. Like I said, I ain't going to be here much longer. I know it's warming up a little bit. I don't want everybody to have to suffer. 1 through 3, Psalm verse 41 through 3, it says, I waited patiently for the Lord. I already said this, he inclined my ear, I wrote it twice. So, 1 Corinthians 1:7 also says, we're eagerly waiting for the Lord, so we'll be blameless and pure before him. You say, well, hold on, what if I ain't pure? Yeah, work with the Lord. It says it in 1 Thessalonians, I think. Work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. You work that out with God. You know, I can talk to you all day long till, you know, we're deaf. Too deaf in the ears. But if you ain't working it out with God, you can't live vicariously through someone else's faith. But my granddaddy said, I don't care what your granddaddy said. We love and appreciate you. You cool, but you ain't that cool. That's how God, I'm just telling you. Every man for himself. Paul can't save Peter. Peter can't save Paul. You got to be on board. I can't stand beside you and hold your hand at the gate. Every man and every woman has their own account with God. So, it's hard to seek something when you don't know nothing about. Amen. It says, remember, that it's important to have patience and know that God knows best. Psalm 138:1, here it is. It talks about giving thanks to God. Lord, I thank you for not answering some of my prayers. I was out there, I was dating around, doing stuff I ain't had no business. You know, and I thought this is what I wanted. Prayed, God didn't give it to me. I looked back and I said, man, well, how come I ain't ever getting nothing, God? How come this don't ever work? And I swear, I didn't hear no audible voice, y'all, no fancy preaching. You know, but it's like a conscience. God talks to you through your conscience. He gives you a clear conscience through His Word. He said, because you don't follow my ways. You like to do as pastors say. You like to doing the churching thing. That's just real, y'all. No, that's just it. You trying to ride both sides of the tracks. You can't do that. This is why your life ain't working out. Because I was trying to satisfy two things. And what happens is you either get a little sidetracked here and this one gets jealous. You got to make your mind up what you want to do. Let God talk to you on that. Is there something in your life that you know that God ain't pleased with? You ain't got to go to your friends about it. They're going to go tell their friends. You ain't got to know. Just talk to God. Let God do it. So here's an example. Jesus told the disciples to go tarry, means go wait until they receive power from above. That's at the end of the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. In the book of Acts, where Luke wrote, he's like, in the second chapter, he's like, hey, y'all don't go preach this gospel until after you receive power from on high, which is the first, you know, what they call the Acts of the Holy Ghost. They receive power from on high. But you know they wanted to explode when, just like today, when you tell somebody something, don't go tell nobody. Man, 1 hour done went by. You done got 10 Facebook messages. You done got 3 text messages. You know, I ain't ever done that, but I've seen it. And that's another thing. You ain't got to learn the hard way on everything. You can learn from other people's mistakes. Amen? I can look and see, hey, I'm going this way. But like Philip said, I had to get up out of there. Philip said, I got to go. Man, and I told him, I want to put you on the spot, Philip. Philip's like, hey man, can we go over here? I said, no, brother, you can go over there. I said, but if you want to go over here, I'll take you over here. He said, I'm not trying to get hurt. You know, and they had some rough activity over that way. I ain't not going to do that. So waiting on the Lord, it's hard, but it's important. And Kim, I hope the Lord brings you tons and tons of peace. And everyone that wants something from the Lord, I hope He brings it to you. But just know, it ain't no walk in the park. And one thing about it, you know, like I say, when you close your eyes at night or when you close your eyes in the daytime, I know some people that pray on lunch break, you know, because they don't like their job so much or it's so toxic there that it affects their daily life. And it's hard when they go home and it invades into their personal life. They just can't stand it that much. So what they do, they lean on the Lord, and it's helped. Like I say, they did a 180. So, well, that's all I got for y'all. I hope y'all got something out of it. Lord. My bad. So